Name is Brandon Rowberry. Wonderful to be with you today. Thanks, Matt, for the invitation. No, I haven't sold Best Buy any businesses at any point in my life at all. But wasn't that an awesome intro, right? I'm about to step out the door. Man, what a great story. By trade, I'm an innovator. Most of my career has been in innovation in large organizations. Healthcare, retail, consumer products, etc. Have since stepped out and now do venture capital. Who knows what will be, frankly, kind of fun. And in Minnesota, what I find very interesting is how we see ourselves as innovators, or frankly, I interact enough with the global innovation community and the innovation community outside of Minnesota, meaning within the United States still, to see how they may think of us. Anybody afraid of heights? This picture just scares the bejesus out of me. Okay. Anyway, that's why I had to focus. But sometimes they see us like this, or sometimes maybe we see ourselves like this. I love the little thing. I don't know if you can see it. Can look like this, right? That's the vision. You see it. You know it's there. Come and get that fluffy white stuff from where I am. True thing, after we saw this, by the way, all my pictures today come just from Twitter, random pictures that I get from people that I save, and I'm like, I'm going to use that sometime when it's going to happen. So I apologize for the non-professionalism of all that, but I don't really care. But how do we see ourselves, right? We're the innovators here. What do? We're carving it up. We've got our minimum viable product on our back, and we're brave. We're heroic, right? We're moving forward. And to a large degree, I think that's right. But today is not all about that. Today is about failure, or in my case, the fear of failure, and how do you build then a sustainable innovation culture in a larger organization out of that. It's a tough thing to do, really tough thing to do. Books have been written on it, all kinds of other stuff's been written on it, and we'll see. And the way I'd like to break that down for you today is talking about all of us as individuals, right? Large organizations are made up of a bunch of individuals. Not a bunch of departments typically when you break it down. And those individuals and those groups have their own fears. And they experience fear and the fear of failure in different ways. And in my experience, in interacting with these kinds of groups and people, and including myself, how do we actually see that? So let's break down kind of each level of the organization, shall we? The CEO, okay? Head member of the organization. How does he or she, what are they worried about? They're worried about Brandon and team and all of us reinventing the wheel literally, wasting time and resources on something that doesn't really need to be done, pulling resources away from the core operating business that's going to make the quarter, you've heard this before, and doing something there. Man, that's tough. Though I do think this is actually kind of neat and cool. Let's go a step further. What about that core operating group in the company? Maybe sales in your organization, if you're in retail, core operations, what are they worried about? Right? Those innovators, they're going to run the train right off the tracks. Real picture, 1948, Los Angeles. They're going to run it right off the... You want to do what? That's where all the compliance tidal wave comes in, and this is why? Because you're going to go do that to our company. What about all of us as employees? To Matt's point a little earlier, it's not the fear of just looking goofy, but the fear that goofiness, that when I stick my neck out, that I'm going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when that cycle of layoffs comes, when something else happens and we're not actually there. But this is me at CES about a year and a half ago. No, that's not a mini cool TV. It's some sort of a head massager thing. I didn't really get it. Raise your hands. Who owned any of the stuff in the top back in the mid-90s? Pretty much all of us, right? 20 years later, wow, it's all on a phone, brilliant. Okay, the owners of the company, the shareholders, the fear of disruption. So we have, as innovators, we tend to have, disruption, wow, awesome. I'm going to go be a disruptor. I'm going to make that happen. We have the fear, though, in large organization of being disrupted ourselves and watching who was on the Fortune 500 20 years ago is not the Fortune 500 today, is not the Fortune 500 in 20 years from now. This is what their fear is. They may be kind of nudging the innovators along, but they still have to make the quarter as well. So what do you do with that? My fear, your fear, as the innovators in the organization, apart from kind of the broad employee population, is you're riding that large tortoise, that large organization on the back, and you got the juiciest carrot out there, and you've done everything right, and you've got your innovation best practices out there, and you're leading that organization, and dang it, it's not moving. Still, this is like the 5th go-around, and it's still not moving, and that can be just frustrating, right? You see innovators move in and out of organizations all the time, to a large degree, because of this. Now, sure, that's your fear. You're going to step inside a new company, you know about the innovation cycle, it's 3 years-ish, 2 years-ish before you are either going to get kicked out the door or you made something really crazy happen. How do you do that? So fears are personal. The fear of failure is personal. And understanding that each person gets that differently, and that each level in the organization probably has different incentives and motivations for why they have that fear of you failing, is really important that you understand that and you build that into your culture, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And oh, by the way, right, where is this? Right, tallest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. 65 years ago, nobody had ever been to the top that we know of. Now, it's so crowded that you can't get to the top oftentimes because you get stuck because of all the other people that are doing the darn same thing you are. Innovation yesterday is not the same as innovation today, nor will it be the same as innovation tomorrow. So if you're too slow to it, you may find yourself in a traffic jam, just like this. So then how do we do this? How do we take something that does not succeed by definition and take it from what would be our headstone and turn it into a milestone? Many years ago, had a great opportunity, entered a new organization, head of innovation, right? So you're going to run this, you got a team, you're going to engage cross-functional employees in these teams and build and concept new innovations. Fantastic. We're about a year into the organization. We had teams running. They had these great innovation domains that they were moving forward with. They had experiments, and there were pilots, and there were some successes and some failures. We had lots of little teeny failures, which is perfectly fine, right? You throw away hundreds of ideas all the time. Not a problem until you start to spend a lot of time and a lot of capital moving those forward. We had all that process set up, which was fantastic. We had a team that knew that it had whittled down from 100 to 10 to 3 to this one thing. This project, they moved it forward. Frankly, they were pretty darn good, really smart, got out there to the customer. It was a time for piloting. So they're taking this out into the consumer marketplace. And to boot, the innovation committee, right, the head committee in the organization that oversees innovation, all the dollars that go into that, this was one of the executive's pet projects. He had bought off on it, huh? He knew this was going to succeed. Why? Brandon, why do you even have to go through all that piloting stuff? This one's going to work. Just scale it, right? Glad we didn't. Get it out in the marketplace. It's not working. First couple of weeks. That's okay. It's all right, right? Quick change, quick pivot. Get it out in the marketplace. Another couple of weeks. Still not working. Data's not coming back great. Okay, change it around, augment it, get it back a couple more weeks, get it back a couple more, and finally, after all the pivots were done, the team decides that, and I give them a lot of credit for this, the team decides, who's working on this, that this doesn't hunt. After it had been written up in the company newsletter. Mistake, by the way. Don't do that until your innovations get scaled. After it had gotten some acclaim, after we had spent some amounts of capital on it. Fortunately, we hadn't scaled it, nationwide or anything, but it was at that point. And executive's pet project, loved it. Had to go into the innovation council and tell them, hey, the team doesn't think it's going to move forward and here's all the data. Of course, get the great pushback from the executive, no, that's going to work. You guys just need to do something harder, faster, better. Good soldiers, we did that. Harder, faster, better didn't work. Came back, team bravely stood before there and said, we recommend shutting this down and shutting it down now because we don't think the resources and our time is best spent here, but we actually think it's best spent over here. So they had actually learned a lot from them. And good for them, we actually had to let the team go, shut the doors, and had some heart-to-heart, shall we say, conversations with the executive team on why this was a good idea and why this needed to be a good idea for where we were culturally in the organization at a time. You see, we had stepped in a year before that and had done some things up to now, but we're still facing organizational resistance to this whole innovation deal. because it's a little too risky for some. Not sure if everybody wants to be involved or doesn't want to be involved. They're going to kind of let it see what happens. So we did it. We shut it down. Team was brave. They didn't want to just shut it down, though. They wanted to let everybody know that it was being shut down, and shut down for good reasons, right? They're just not going to just push it back to, hey, whatever happened to that project, nobody can find it anymore. It was important that everyone knew what we learned and what we gained as an organization from this experience. So they decided to hold a funeral. Awesome, right? And actually, I'm not joking, a funeral. And they invited 50 of their closest friends, and of course 50 became 100, became 400. I think it eventually became 500 people that got together in the corporate auditorium over lunchtime. And we had cake. Why do you always have to have cake? But we had cake, and they got up there and they had this little piece of the innovation, and they put it in a box, and they put this thing on it, they moved it aside. And what they didn't know, though, is I talked to our executive team about this as well. And they didn't know that we had invited the CEO into this little shindig. They thought he was actually going to be gone that day. And so midway through the celebration, he walks in, and I hand him a piece of paper, and it has a eulogy on it written out for this innovation. So what is a eulogy, right? High praise or commendation, usually for someone, but it can be for something also. And people start to look around and go, whoa, hey, what's he doing here? And he kind of walks up on stage and quiets everybody down from a little party we were having and says, I have a few things to say about this. First of all, I'm going to name you, and you by name, right? Stand up. Give them a round of applause. That's weird. Round of applause for what? For failing? Interesting. And then he starts to read through it and talk about what the company had learned, all these things, how much money the company had saved by doing this and doing it quickly, and the learnings that the company had actually been through. And to use these guys as an example now for what we want future innovations to be like, because they were already moving forward with something else that they had learned from. Wow, cute, right? So we leave that day. Good Day became an interesting story to tell as well, right? And that's when we get into the sustainable innovation culture piece. So up to that point, I had met with some resistance in the organization to moving parts of innovation forward. After that point, it was a little easier to make that happen. Why? Because out of the 500 people that joined us that day, you know, that spread like, wow, the CEO did what? When? With who? Wow, they're serious. So they're serious. They didn't not just bring this guy in from the outside to come help. They got these teams together. They got that. And he didn't slam these people? Oh, that's pretty neat. So my phone starts to ring. My email starts to fill up. Double-edged sword problem. But managers and directors and leaders in the organization say, hey, how can we now be involved in that? How can I get my people on some of these innovation projects? Because these guys who are coming back, and not only are they fired up about it, but they've got these new skills and talents and things that they didn't have before that they're bringing back to us. And they went on, and nothing tells you more about culture than what happens to people, right, as a result. And some of those people, after that, you know, they're not a random group of people, well chosen. Some of them get promoted, not as a direct result, but some of them stay where they are. Some of them go into new jobs. None of them got fired. So what else do we do? Let's talk more about the sustainable innovation culture. The reason I told you that story is because stories are powerful, and stories are very viral, right, in your organization. The stories we tell each other is really what builds off it. I can only imagine that this story here of this guy carrying all that stuff on his back can spread like wildfire, and we need to write them up. As innovators, we need to write them up. We need to build them, and we need to help them spread like wildfire. Because there is lots and lots and lots inside a big company that's working against you, right? We need to have everything in our arsenal that we can that will work for us. You got to get personally involved and get people personally involved. Slap yourself on the front of whatever it is. You be willing to do that. Not just be, what's interesting here, so in innovation and looking a little goofy and failing, it all goes together. But if you're a leader, especially if you're an innovation leader, and you're not willing to be personally involved in some of those innovations yourself, that's gonna tell something as well. So for me, for the folks that I've had on my staff and others, we have a requirement in our management by objectives, right? We have a portion of our time, et cetera, that we personally are involved in actually driving the new innovations ourselves, and would recommend that to any leader if they really want to do it. It's tough. It's tough to find the time. It's tough for the organization to find the time to innovate. It's tough for you as the innovation leader to even find the time to innovate, right? Because you got all this other stuff you got to be messing with and playing air cover with compliance and finance and the quarterlies, and it's all there. You need to deputize. These are real guys, by the way, in Russia. They're plane spotters, but 1919, something like that. It's not from Disneyland. Innovation spotters. You need to deputize innovation spotters all around the organization. What's great about it is people get really energized by this, right? You will find there will not be a lack in your organization for finding and deputizing these types of people, right? It's not their full-time job, perhaps, but it's a way that they can be a part of that and spread that culture forward. It's been very, very successful for me. You also need to define, shall we say, define what smart failure is. Right? Rocket toasters in the organizations that I have been a part of is not a smart failure, right? We shouldn't have gone after that thing in the first place. Likely this interesting hairdryer may not have fit its consumer need. But in building a sustainable innovation culture, those things have stood me in good stead. And I offer them to you today, and I look forward to talking with you after this. Thanks for having me.